Well, so we have to review the newspapers. Mama V is here. Good morning to you.
Oh, good morning, Roland Walker. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And I see you have a stack of books here.
I do. I got a surprise yesterday from two very important persons in my life. One is Dr. Charles Rekubrobe, and the other is Nana Aredamwa. So I got, this is actually a gift from the two.
Wow.
A bunch of books, and I am super grateful. Nana Aredamwa gave me all 6 of his books, I think.
And they're all members of Power, I believe. Or is it the Ghana Writers Association?
Yes.
Ghana Association of Writers.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. So I think, yeah. All right. So thank you very much. I think I got 7 of the books.
Try and read them, eh?
Yeah, I will.
I know the things you have to read, so I'm wondering.
I'm reading all of it.
Okay, please
I'm
try.
reading all of it.
Try.
2, 4, 6, 7.
What's the timeline
so
for you to read all these?
This is quotes by Nad. That's Nana Aredamwa. This is sabbatically speaking.
Who is?
I speak of.
Who is D. Akpabli? Akpabli is a publisher.
Yes, he is. You know him,
He's one of the gentlemen who worked with the Daily Graphic.
Yes.
Okay, he's
he
a
is.
That's great.
Yeah. So I've got all of it. Okay. So I am sharing because I want to also share with you. If you want to read it, if you want to read any of the copies that I have, please hit me on WhatsApp so we can share. You read, I read, or I read, you read, something like that. But it will only be for one day. If you can do that, hit me.
You know what they say now, the cliche that has been on for some decades in Africa, they say if you want to hide something from the black man, hide it in a book. Yeah, so please,
okay.
there are lots of things that are hidden in this book.
Tales. This is Tales from Different Tales. Yeah, and this is Through the Gates of Thoughts.
He's a great writer.
Excursions in my mind.
He has great publication.
And I got this one. Have you read anything written by Dr. Charles Rekubrobe before?
Apart from his articles.
Okay, this is from Berlin, Time for a New Independence for Ghana to Paris. It will be a good read.
Wow.
Yeah, this is from Dr. Charles Rekubrobe. And then I've got a portrait of Otumfuo Pokuwari II as a young man. I'm sure you're envying me right now. Lots of books for me to read.
And the quality of the prints are also very good.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got to do the newspapers, but you can send us messages, send us WhatsApp messages, and send us regular text messages as well. Shall we begin, though? Kojiang Singh is joining us in a bit, hopefully. And
then Kofi too.
Yeah.
Kofi too is ready
Joseph
to join us.
will be here as well. So let's do the Daily Graphic newspaper on the front page of the Graphic now. Ernest Thompson, 4 others charged for causing $14.8 million financial loss to the states. That's the biggest story really coming from the courts yesterday. And Thompson is a former Director General of Snit. And the picture that comes with this headline on the front page of the Daily Graphic is one where he's on phone, and they said this was taken while leaving the court premises in Accra yesterday. Picture by Emmanuel Asamoah Adai. Don't go beyond 3 babies. National Population Council warns couples. Interesting. That story is on page 16.
It's on the front page of the Daily Graphic.
Yeah, yes. That's the
telling
headline.
us to stop giving.
This won't be the first time, by the way. This conversation keeps coming and going. Here's the police. We will purge service of miscreants. That's IGP saying there. But let's go to page 3. Let's pick this one from page 3. 5 persons, including a former Director General of the Social Security and National Insurance Trusts, Mr. Ernest Thompson, have been arraigned for causing financial loss of more than $14.8 million to the state. The financial loss was in respect of the controversial Snit operational business suite projects. The 4 other accused are John Hagan Mensah, a former IT manager at Snit, Julius Hassana Kramer, the CEO of Perfect Business Systems, Caleb Kweku Afaglu, a former head of Management Information Systems at Snit, and Peter Haibo, the lawyer for Snit. So it gives us a background from June 2010 when Snit initiated this 34 million OBS project system to use information and communications technology to revamp its operations to enable it to provide a state-of-the-art pension administration system in the country. But it also gives you fast forward how that money ballooned to another figure, 66 million, even though the OBS system failed to perform efficiently as the project contract had envisaged. So the charges, the bail, because subsequently they were given bail. So that's it. You can read on a lot more details on page 3, and it continues also on page 23. So that's this court case is a very familiar one, causing financial loss to the state. Yeah, it happens a lot, especially when there's a change in administration. So another familiar one that, you know, is being battled out.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah.
Nice to see you both.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, alon table tie. Let's go to page 16. This story that Roland's been asking questions on, Population Council warns couple. I don't think it will be warning, eh? I mean, this is like a caution.
It's a headline, so it's not as if that maybe they are literally warning.
Okay. So Kojo has one. I see you've written.
They have to make it catchy. It's a headline.
You've written a lot.
Yes.
You've written on population. I've read.
He's written a lot on the story.
Yeah.
You have one. Are you planning on going beyond 3?
Well, no, I don't plan to have more than 3 children.
Okay.
But if I did,
you plan having 3? How many
actually,
do you plan having?
I don't have a plan like how many children I want.
But if in the initial 4, you shouldn't go beyond 3, you say?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. But I think the important thing here, I'll let Mama V read the story.
No, go ahead. You have read it, so share.
Yes, I was just going to say, so essentially, in an interview with the Daily Graphic, what the boss of the National Population Council is saying is that there is already a policy that was supposed to reduce the fertility rate of Ghana over a period of time. Okay, so at a point it was about 5.5 children per woman per mother, and then the plan was to reduce it little by little so that by 2020 it is 3 children per mother. Now this is population planning, so the idea is not that you are going to say it is a crime for you to have more than 3 children, but if you have more than 3 children, then the extra ones will not be catered for by the government. So they will not get free SHS or NHIS or any of the things that the taxpayer is paying for. So you can have 10 children if you want, but the remaining 7, you will pay for everything.
China even doesn't allow you to have a second one unless you're rich enough to pay certain
Yes,
things.
for them at a point it was even a crime.
Yes, at a point. But
so
now
in this case, what they are saying is, look, we won't tell you how many children to have. If you are rich enough, you want 20 children, have 20. However, only 3 of them will qualify for any intervention that is funded by the people of Ghana.
So for instance, free SHS.
Exactly. Now this is a policy that has existed for several years. It's not something new, okay? And we were supposed to be working towards this 3 by 2020. I don't know whether we are on target or not, but what she is saying
the same year we'll be having the election.
Yes, but what she is saying is that we haven't actually, we are not enforcing this policy. Now you see, the thing about population is that you have to plan it. So you go to Malaysia, Singapore, they know how many Malaysians they want to have by the year 2030. They know how many Singaporeans they want to have by 2050, 2070. They know. And so they design policies and implement them to ensure that by that year, they have hit their target and not exceeded it. Because population is the number 1 factor in how your resources are distributed. So Ghana is not poor because we don't have money, but it's because our money is not enough for the almost 30 million Ghanaians. So if we were to plan things better, we will find that we suddenly have enough hospitals, we suddenly have enough schools, we suddenly have enough roads because we have planned accordingly. So instead of going to bring someone who will say, oh, I'm coming to build 20 schools for you. Why do I need 20 schools? Do I know how many Ghanaians, how many students I will have by the year 2030, 2040, 2050? So why do I need this school here? Do I know how fast the population is growing in this area? Is anybody planning this? And if they are, and they are advising government, is government implementing any of that advice? Population planning is crucial, and we don't appear to be doing it. But you see, the problem is not how many Ghanaians there are. When you're planning your population, what you must think about is the population structure.
The density.
How many dependent Ghanaians are there? So from the age of 16 to 60, you are working. But from 0 to 16, you are a dependent, and from 60 onwards, you are a dependent, because you are not earning enough to look after yourself. I mean, in general terms, okay. So you are depending on the 16 to 60. So that is the group that needs to be. That is the group that we need to focus our attention on, okay. The dependents, because the more dependents there are, the more strained your resources are. So when you are planning your population, you have to think of how many kids you want to have in the system.
But talking about population, I'm told that so we're going to have a number of streams. Is it you're talking about free SHS?
No. I was just going to add on that.
About double track.
I hope that Dr. Letitia Adleda-Pierre, who is a National Population Council Executive Director, is not just speaking to the media, but there's a connection really with government, because at the end of the day, that's it. But speaking out there, because I see there's a point where he says they are, so let me just read exactly. They are, by asking the government to first ensure that its family planning service was easily made available, accessible and affordable. So that's what I'm saying. You're speaking to the right people, but you're not just speaking to the media.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about bosses of state institutions. By the time they start speaking to the media, it's because somebody is ignoring them. I've interviewed Dr. Letitia before.
But are they, so what I mean is that we need them to say where they've been and what they've done and how it hasn't worked.
Well, they are the National Population Council.
But if you just speak, we're asking government is in the air.
You know, you have to understand, I mean, the work of the Population Council is relevant to all institutions, because everybody has to plan with numbers, right? So they will certainly be advising at all levels. But if nobody is taking into account the information, the data, the advice, the policy direction that is coming from this institution, then that explains a lot of our problems. Well, you know.
Okay, quickly, still on page 16, our friend Doche Kobla Aklobotu in Takrady has filed a story.
Good morning.
Petroleum Commission to crack whip on non-compliant companies. That's on page 16. And then there's a special report in the center spread of the paper on Adaklu. It's a district with absolutely no tarred roads. Incredible, I didn't know this. It says Adaklu districts, or the traditional area of the constituency, has no tarred road, which is a bane to development, especially in connection with the promotion of an inter-district trade among 5 districts that share boundaries with it. It's occupying the entire center spread of the paper. Please read it in the... Please read it. That's it. Can't believe it. Okay, on the back page of the paper, though, work progresses on Accra and Sawam railway line. And then foodstuffs are locked up at Asonkwa in the Bono Ahaf region over bad roads. Roland, you wanted to talk about?
No, we're not talking. I thought, you know what?
We'll show it in due course. Population. Yes, we'll show it in due course.
Because population, it looks like we're not looking at population. So that's why. Well, so we have to do the Ghanaian Times.
Why don't we do that? And NPA descends on OMCs and BDCs. 8 oil marketing companies hot, slapped with suspension for 11 million Ghana cedi tax evasion. The president urges Gonja traditional area to support creation of new region. And court grants Ernest Thompson and 4 others bail. Also inside today, cop interdicted for assaulting woman at Midland. Now, it doesn't quite say whether the cop is under lock and key, but he has certainly been interdicted for the purpose of investigation. Okay, so page 10 has the story about the oil marketing companies. It's quite interesting. I know that at some point there was a meeting between Seaboard and the NPA over this matter, but basically 8 oil marketing companies have been accused of evading tax totaling 11 million Ghana cedis. So basically, this has stemmed from some under-declaration. Okay, they haven't declared the correct quantities of product. So about 19,214,850 liters of product valued at 87.24 million Ghana cedis were not made known, and so did not attract the required taxes and levies, which would have amounted to about 11 million Ghana cedis. Okay, and now this is important because the Corporate Affairs Division of the NPA is saying that this suspension will take effect from the 18th of July, so it actually has taken effect. Some of the companies listed include Petro Afrique, Life Petroleum, and Unique Company Limited. They have been suspended for 3 months each. And then Union Oil Ghana Limited, Agapet Limited, Excel Oil Company Limited, Mysil Energy Company Limited, Globex Energy, all of them are serving 1 month bans. But they say this is not the end of it, based on what other information they're able to gather about how this, under declaration happened. Some of them might actually have their licenses.
Does the story say whether this is a one-time thing or it should be an industry practice? Well,
the story
more
says
so the bigger ones that are not here.
The story says
what pertains to?
Yeah, the story says that and it's Anil Sabute who has been speaking to the press. He said that their suspension followed the completion of investigation into the operations of these companies in the first 2 months of the year. Okay, so I wonder whether there will be more to reveal if they study these companies for the rest of the year, or whether these are the only companies that were studied. It's not clear from the story. But you are right, there are bigger OMCs out there. Are they all doing the right thing? In fact,
because I think that'll be curious for us.
Yes. In fact, I mean, this under declaration situation is quite serious because it follows into other things like smuggling. So they will under declare, say, oh, we didn't bring that much, which means they don't pay that much tax. But then at the same time, it also allows them to skim off and sell to other markets without
recourse.
Yes, So it's very important that we get to the bottom of it.
I think another section too is that there's an aspect where they say the crude or whatever it is that they are carrying is intended for an outside market beyond the shores of Ghana or the borders of Ghana, and then they sell it locally. Because when you want to send it to a landlocked country or outside the country within the West African sub-region, I think the exemptions are there.
That's right. So they make quite a killing.
I think there's one thing that Senor Jose, who is the CEO of the Chamber, has
been fighting for a very long time. So hopefully, together with the NPA, they will be able to work to regulate this. But Senor Jose insists that this is not a matter of tax evasion, it's rather a matter of under-declaration. But, I mean, under-declaration does lead to the evasion of tax as well. All right, now, President urges Gonja Traditional Area to support creation of new region. Lots of details on this on page 18, but I think quite interestingly, it's my first indication that the President himself is pushing this. It's not just let's call them the petitioners who are asking for it. But the president himself, the president himself appears to want this to happen. These 6 extra regions, and the conspiracy theorists have all kinds of explanations for why the government is interested in this. But to be fair, the NDC also had proposed to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So
I think I proposed 5 regions.
Yes, actually that is.
But the thing is, I think the question out there being asked, not necessarily by the politicians, but even media people, those in academia and social commentators, is that if you have the creation or if you have new regions, do they in any way deepen local governance participation in our democracy and then development? Because I think we've had this debate here before. If you want to build a dam, do you need to create a region to build more dams? If you want to construct a road, do you need a region to construct more roads?
Well, to be fair, and to balance the argument, there are other things that need to be done administratively in regions, like healthcare, and outreach.
And you need more regions.
Education.
You need more regions.
No, you don't need more regions, but you need centers that are closer to the people. Okay, so at the moment, if you go to the Western region, and somebody has to travel to inspect a school.
Is it a region that will enable us to develop areas to be centers? I don't get
Yes, because there are certain resources that come through the regional system rather than district.
No, is it not more of us lacking the priority to
No.
allocate?
I mean, sometimes it's just the travel time. Okay, for an inspector to travel from the regional headquarters, 100 kilometers away, 200, 300 kilometers away to inspect a school, then you must know that school will not get inspected.
I see.
You know, so it's things like that. But again, you have to ask yourself, we already have district units. We have you know, municipal and district administrations as well. Can they not do some of these things? Are they not closer to the people? So the debate, you know, continues. But Botwe certainly thinks this is important.
I guess it's a twofold thing. The thing is that both parties said they would do it. We look at the Herald. The Herald has on the front page conspiracy theory and also reporting a story that is not substantiated. Nonetheless, it's a front page story. Why Professor Mensa Bunsu? This is supposedly that she was offered the job of EC chair, but decided to reject the offer.
I have no evidence of it, but it's plausible, isn't it?
It could be. Never know.
Yeah.
Not everybody jumps to it.
Yeah.
You can turn down an offer.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And if anybody would turn down an offer.
And the story seems to suggest that she wants to live a quiet life. She wants to devote a lot of professional contribution to law and the strengthening of law and what is justiciable in our country. So
politics is you know?
Yes, it is.
And people feel.
Oh, but if you're chair of the Electoral Commission, you're not a politician.
Oh, I said.
Let's do the Finder newspaper, front page of the Finder. Free SHS on free SHS boarding costs for parents and pre-qualified private senior high school to participate. ISODEC is certainly making some suggestions on page 2 in the paper. Just a quick one. And ISODEC has proposed partial or full payments of boarding fees by parents, or that government should pre-qualify some private high schools with adequate facilities to participate in the free SHS program to address the current challenges facing it. So these two main options, in ISODEC's view, could best decongest schools and improve the quality of teaching and learning. You can read on the argument as Dr. Steve Manteo, who doubles as campaigns coordinator for ISODEC.
But I was reading a press statement and I'm sure this is where they couched the story from. And this was sent yesterday or 2 days ago. And he also says ISODEC is worried that they get the impression that some of the policies that have been introduced by government have no concept papers. And it says several of them have no papers and publicly available policy papers backing them. Examples are Ghana Beyond Aid, one constituency, $1 million, leveraging Ghana's bauxite for infrastructure, and what they are now talking about, the free SHS program. And if you go down the lane or the lines, you get to find that the acts, the speed with which government is trying to introduce the two-track SHS system, that is 2 months from now, without any meaningful broad stakeholder consultations in consonance with the principles of good governance, is worrying. Some of us are beginning to ask ourselves whether or not the initiative's blueprint, assuming it exists, envisage the congestion we are confronted with today, and whether or not it proposed ways of responding to it. If it did, then was the two-track system one of the recommended responses? If so, why are we now hearing about it?
Thank you, ISODEC.
All right.
Thank you. But you see, I think like we said even yesterday, some of the real questions are, can I say, blinded? When you raise the real questions,
I'm told that
then people
there was a meeting of some journalists over the weekend. I'm not sure some of these questions were they?
But you see, you can meet a group of journalists. That's fine. But there are so many questions that we're asking. I don't know what those people asked. But there are so many things. And this is almost coming like it's sudden, you know. and I thank ISODEC for bringing some of these things out.
Yesterday,
hopefully because they've issued a statement and they're talking about it, we'll begin to, because we're getting things in bits. So for instance, there's a schedule that when it's ready, we'll show you on the screen in terms of how this is actually going to work.
How it could work.
How it could work.
Is there a formal schedule from the ministry?
I hope it is.
Because it looks like everybody's providing, everybody around the administration is providing some solutions.
The thing is coming in bits. So we will consume as and well. Okay, so this is the schedule that we have. And
so we'll try and zoom in quickly and see.
This is how it is going to work. Apparently.
Does that make any sense to you?
I don't know.
Are you able to follow what this schedule is supposed to be communicating?
Hopefully. So let's see if we can go over it.
There are certain things that really bother.
So we're going to have from September
So this is a sample. Let's put it in perspective. Sample 2018-2019 academic multi-track year-round calendar for all schools using Ministry of Education data on student placement and senior high schools one projections. SHS 3, Roland?
Yeah. So now we start from SHS 1 really.
Okay.
And let's say you all have parents you all have children as parents who will be going to senior high school first year. It means from September 17 they will reopen. We're going to have the first track of those who have been admitted in SHS 1 following the BEC results coming in. The first track A, they will be in school for 81 days.
Okay. That's the first semester?
Yes. First semester. And then they'll be on vacation after 81 days. Then that's the number of 361,000 second cycle school children in first year. No, 20.
Roland, you the sit up.
230,000 students who will be in school for 41 days. Sorry, SHS 1. And then they'll be on vacation. And then we're going to have the next batch go 230,000 students go for 40 days. And then they'll be on vacation. And then they'll follow through with the next 230,000.
Okay, Roland, thank you. I think it's more confusing.
It's clear,
so we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there.
Right,
this was produced by Prince Amma.
Yeah, it's with the Institute of
IFEST. Just
So
say IFEST.
yesterday you spoke to Bright Appear, and I caught him after his interview with you and spoke to him about this. Now he said something quite definitive. All right. So now the Constitution, what's it called? The Children's Act says, I think in Section 2, that everything that involves a child, the interest of the child must be placed first. So Bright Appear says that the failure to educate and inform children about this massive change in how our schooling works.
So we're going from
term to semester, and then there's going to be this in and out thing with the 2 streams. Failing to educate parents and children on it means you have violated the Constitution. Okay.
How you go?
Now, even more importantly, it also demonstrates that nobody is planning ahead. Everybody.
Shall we listen to him?
Yes, if we have it.
Okay,
we
do.
Let's
listen
hear
to
him now. Yeah.
When you look at the manifesto of the MPP, clearly they define what exactly they want to do with the free SHS system. To the extent that they promise that they are going to redefine basic education to include secondary education. And we know that by the constitutional provision, once we say that something is basic, then it's free and compulsory, and it should be accessible to all. That is the definition that we have. So it means that we have opened the floodgate for everybody to have the same level playing field to access education, which in itself not wrong at all. But again, you live in a society where we are not all equal, and there are some people with capacity who can provide. So if we're really introducing a program that relies on social intervention, then clearly we have to define the target and see those who really need of those services so that we target them. And then those who can provide the services, we make it so friendly for them to also provide it. So on that basis, I would tend to agree with his position. But again, this is where most of the things that we do in this country ride on political manifestos. So I don't know how that is going to fit into the whole agenda of doing that. So I would say that the whole free SHS scheme must be looked at again, because the issues that we are seeing today are going to multiply in the future. So we need to have a system that we can all live on and say that, yes, this is what exactly we want. Because first of all, what the manifesto is saying is different from the announcement that was made by the Minister of Education, that the scheme that they are bringing is scholarship. And once you say scholarship, then you deviate from what has been provided for in the manifesto. And here is a case that the Minister of Finance is also proposing this scheme, which I tend to believe with him, because that has been our position for some time now, that you cannot roll out a social intervention program on a whole scale. You need to define it and target the real people that need those services. So I think that they have to go back to the drawing board, look at how to restructure the whole free SHS system, so that we need to be consistent with the flow of the policy arrangement, right from what they have promised in the manifesto, what is on the ground, and what needs to be done. So once we are able to do all this evaluation, then we can come to a certain conclusion that this is the way we want to go. That is why I believe that when we introduce any policy which is socially targeting people, then we need to also give room to do piloting of that policy to see how best we can live to that policy.
Okay, so that's Bright up here there speaking to you, Kojo. There's a lot more that he said that you subsequently hear. But there's one more story I want to pick from the Finder newspaper before we move on to other papers. It's on page 8, and maybe before I begin to do anything with it, I'd like to ask you guys, are you paid well as journalists?
I could do with some more.
Roland? Answer the question here.
What do you question? My mind
You heard me. Your mind is here. You are here.
No. I won't say no to a pay rise, if that's your question.
So, Cabral Blair here, right? He's a former chairman of the National Media Commission.
Yes.
He's charged media houses to remunerate journalists adequately as a means of ensuring that they are not influenced in their line of duty. Yeah.
I think here at Multimedia, comparatively, so I'm comparing us to other.
I was just going to say that, stop, don't go further. Let me just say what Cabral Blair here has said.
I'll leave it
right
here.
Thank you, Kojo. Two things he said. One is on this remuneration, and the other is a call. The government should review portions.
So we shouldn't.
Roland, he's asked for government to review portions of the National Communications Authority Act that deals with allocation of frequencies to media outlets. So two things that he's saying here in the paper this morning, all really important, particularly the remuneration bits, you know. Yeah,
so you brought it
that's where we ended, because it's the question I asked. I didn't say make extra comments, so that's it. No, go ahead and do other papers. You answered me. You said you could do with more. Roland said he didn't hear the question, like he's not here. His mind wasn't here.
My mind, seriously, I'm sorry.
That's fine. Don't apologize.
Do Daily Guide quickly.
I'm apologizing.
All right, so Snit boss in court over $72 million scam. That's Daily Guide's banner headline. Mahama rejects new EC chair and U.S. envoy OK's Jean Mensah choice. Unibank government agency customers cry for payment, and Spio boy strikes again. All right, so quickly, U.S. envoy OK's Jean Mensah choice. Interesting. Robert P. Jackson, the outgoing U.S. ambassador to Ghana, apparently has expressed some approval of the choice of Jean Mensah. Now, the IEA organizes, talks and events where they try to get diplomats to come in and speak about, their experience and their perception of Ghana, to aid them in their formulation of policy suggestions and so forth. So I have attended an event where Robert Jackson was at the IEA and spoke.
Is that where he said it?
No. This is something that happened when he first arrived in Ghana. And I remember Jean Mensah really questioning him quite vigorously on a number of issues. So perhaps that impressed him. Okay, quickly though, I want to talk about this very important story in the Daily Guide. Shouldn't take a moment. Judgment debt swallowing GBC. Okay, now it says there is a simmering tension at GBC, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, following what some staff claim to be mounting judgment debts, which they said is crippling the activities of the state-owned broadcaster. Okay, so currently there is a heated debate over how GBC came to owe a private firm called Buy Media a whopping 8,450,000 Ghana cedis through judgment debt as at December 2016. So information available in the 2016 Auditor General's report. shows that this 8.4 million debt that GBC agreed to pay by media through a consent judgment was done without the involvement of the Attorney General's department. So GBC agreed to pay this debt, but apparently the Attorney General's department was not a part of that decision. Now later, when Kwame Ekufuor-Nofo, who is currently on leave, as you know, following the TV license court matter, when he took over from the previous Director General, Major Albert Donchebe, when Anofo took over, he then set up a committee to investigate this payment. But before he did that, he approved payment of this money in cash rather than check, which would obviously have been the preferred means of for accounting purposes. He said pay them in cash. And then he set up a committee to investigate it. And this committee then said they want to be paid sitting allowance of 172,000 Ghana cedis. But here's the best part. Every single member of the committee is a GBC employee. Right? Now, somehow GBC then went into a negotiation with them, according to the story, on this 172,000, and they settled on 90,000. And other members of staff are
fleecing the state
over it.
Okay, all right, we have to go, but of course you've sent us lots of messages, so let's run a few of the messages. This one says, good morning, can I get one of the books? Well, what I said is we can share. I'm not giving it out completely. Here's another one that says, I always love your objectivity. Okay, Abdul Rauf from Tamale sending this message, and this one says, those who are supposed to take care of our borders just do that. The problem of mass population is not from the citizen. Abdul Muhammad in Tamale also having his say on WhatsApp. This one says, okay, yeah. It's a bit long. Nicholas Intechiman says, the gradual declining and confusion in senior high schools is the cause of the so-called retired professors in education hiding behind government and making monies with unrealistic and contaminated educational policies to the detriment of teachers in the classrooms. Who are those retired? It's a bit long, so I just have to cut it short here. Here's another one that says, Roland, how can you explain this to my grandmother living in Somanya? It's quite a number of things. I want to ask the Minister of Education these questions. 1, in the next 5 years, how many students will be graduating from JHS? 2, what is the number of students who graduated yearly from JHS or the countries already doing the dual tracking system? 3, why didn't they complete the infrastructure drive started by the previous government? 4, when are they going to stop this new policy? So those are the questions that he's asking. Says, how do you explain this to my grandmother? Lots of other questions, but we will bring you more of your messages. We have to go, guys.
Yeah, we have to go.
Yeah.
I wanted to answer his last question. The policy will be implemented, not when stopped.
Well, for 5 to 7 years, that's what they're saying. But again, is it 5 or 7? If they knew what they were doing, perhaps they could tell us.
My son will be captured. Anyway, we're taking a break. We'll be back with sports. Stay on.